He woke before dawn, nerves buzzing like trapped lightning in his chest. The hotel room was quiet and dark, save for the faint glow of the city skyline beyond the curtains. He stared at the wedding invitation lying on the nightstand, the elegant script spelling out their names, Marcus and Aaliyah. His heart had soared the moment he'd first met her, her laughter echoing through the rehabilitation center corridors where she trained tirelessly to master life in a wheelchair. She was beautiful, fierce, impossibly brave. He'd known from the start there was something extraordinary about her, and he'd fallen into love so completely that he barely recognized his own reflection anymore. He dressed slowly, slipping into his tuxedo as if donning armor for a battle of emotions. Outside the window, the first threads of daylight shimmered over the skyscrapers. He wondered if she was awake in her suite down the hall, adjusting the simple white gown that clung to her shoulders and swept the marble floor. He remembered the first time he'd seen her in that dress. A pirate's chest full of nerves had been his, but she had shone with calm confidence, her dark eyes reflecting constellations of hope. The ceremony was a blur of smiles, the soft swell of violins, the scent of lilies mingling with the summer air. Friends and family gathered, faces bright with laughter and happy tears. When she glided down the aisle in her wheelchair, her veil trailing behind like a comet's tail, his breath caught. She looked radiant, regal as any queen, and when their hands met at the altar, he felt an electric jolt that grounded him, anchored him to the moment forever. They exchanged vows, simple words, but each syllable was drenched in meaning. "I promise to love you," he had said, voice trembling. "I promise to stand by you," she replied, and his heart unfolded like a sunrise. They slipped rings onto each other's fingers, their rings gleaming like promises carved from gold and faith. The reception that followed was a carnival of joy. Glasses clinked, laughter rippled through the air, and he marveled as guests lined up to congratulate them. Aaliyah moved gracefully among them, her wheelchair gliding on the polished floor as if powered by hope itself. He caught glimpses of her smile, so full of warmth that he felt he could melt iron with it. As evening deepened, the music shifted to a soulful, slow dance. The crowd parted, and she beckoned him to join her. He sat beside her in the center of the dance floor, music weaving around them like silk, their hands clasped, and he remembered every hardship she'd faced since the accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. He recalled hospital rooms painted in faded pastels, rehab sessions that pushed her to the brink of exhaustion, the solitude of nights spent wrestling with frustration and despair. Through it all, she had carried herself with dignity and grace, refusing to let her disability define her spirit. He drew her close, feeling the soft curve of her cheek against his shoulder as they swayed. He whispered how beautiful she was, how lucky he felt. Her laughter was a promise. "We will face everything together." The dinner ended. The guests drifted away, and soon they were alone. The hotel staff had left rose petals tracing a path to their suite, candles flickering like fireflies in the dim corridor. He guided her wheelchair gently along the petals, each step bringing his heartbeat closer to an edge he had never imagined. Inside the suite, twilight shadows danced on the walls. Aaliyah paused, her fingers brushing the petals at the threshold, and he reached for her hand. She turned, eyes shining in the candlelight, lips curved in a secret smile he hadn't seen all day. "I have something for you," she said softly. She wheeled past him to a small writing desk in the corner. He rose to follow, curious. She unlatched a drawer and removed a slender leather-bound book. He recognized it as her journal, the one she had kept since the day of her accident. She never shared its pages with anyone. He looked at her, puzzled. She motioned him closer. "Read it," she whispered. He opened the cover, nails catching on the leather edge, and leafed through the pages dense with her loopy handwriting. The first entries were raw, trembling with pain and anger. She wrote, of the day her world had shattered, how she had lost more than mobility. She'd lost a sense of purpose, identity. Then came the chapters of rebuilding. The late nights spent teaching herself to code, the scholarship she won to a prestigious university, the scholarship she declined in order to start a tech lab designed to create accessibility devices for people like her. He could hardly believe what he was reading. He had known her as a passionate volunteer, as an advocate, but he had never grasped the full extent of her brilliance. She'd quietly launched a startup that had raised millions, developed a groundbreaking exoskeleton prototype that helped other paralyzed patients take their first steps, all while keeping the company afloat, surviving board meetings where her wheelchair was seen as a liability, enduring the whispered doubts of investors who underestimated her determination. He looked up, voice caught in his throat. "Why didn't you tell me?" She moved her chair closer, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Because I wanted you to love me for me," she said. "Not for what I've built, not for who I could help. I wanted you to see me as a partner, an equal, someone who could stand beside you, even if I can't stand on my own." He reached out, fingertips grazing her cheek, and she leaned into the touch. "Aaliyah," he said, voice raw, "you are the strongest person I've ever known." She closed her journal and pressed it into his hands. "There's more," she said. He opened to the last pages where she'd written a letter, an open confession that she'd inherited a fortune from her grandmother, a woman who'd built a civil rights law firm from the ground up. The grandmother's will had specified that Aaliyah receive the inheritance once she proved her own merit. She had refused to accept charity. She had waited until her lab succeeded and her exoskeleton was patented. Only then did she claim the millions that could have changed her circumstances overnight. His mind spun. Her wheelchair had never been a barrier to her power. If anything, it had fueled her resolve. She'd refused to let pity guide her path. Instead, she'd transformed her weakness into a weapon of change. He swallowed hard, gaze drifting to her hands on his. "You could have told me any time." She reached out and touched his ring. "Tonight felt right," she said. "With everyone gone, I wanted to show you not just who I am, but who I choose to be, with you." He felt tears sliding down his cheeks. Tenderness, awe, gratitude mingled in his chest. He lowered himself to one knee in front of her wheelchair. She reached down, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "I love you," he said, voice steady. "Not for your inventions, not for your fortune, but for your heart. You taught me what real strength looks like. Will you let me be your partner in everything? Your love, your dreams, your challenges?" She gasped, covering her mouth with one hand. Then she nodded, tears glistening. He rose and leaned in, kissing her softly, the moment suspended in time. They sank onto the edge of the bed, she scooting back to settle beside him. He wrapped his arms around her, his tuxedo jacket pooling on the floor as he loosened his tie. She laid her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I have one more surprise," she murmured. He lifted his eyebrows. "Another one?" She reached beneath her pillow and withdrew a small, sleek device. It looked like a compact remote with an array of tiny lights and buttons. He examined it curiously. "What is it?" She smiled, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Our future." She pressed a button. The device hummed softly. He watched in amazement as a holographic blueprint materialized above the bed. Detailed schematics of an updated exoskeleton, improved sensors, lighter materials, solar charging, panels integrated into the wheelchair frame. She gestured, rotating the hologram with a flick of her finger. "I want to build this with you," she said. "I want us to change the world together. You'll be my partner in life, and in revolution." He pulled her close again, whispering, in her ear, "I thought the surprise was your inheritance, but this is the real gift." She laughed, a soft musical trill. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I love you," he said again. "I love you," she echoed, pressing a kiss to his collarbone. They spent the rest of the night talking, plotting, dreaming. Two hearts bound by love, two minds united, in purpose. Outside, the city glittered like a promise waiting to be claimed. Inside, they found a universe all their own. When morning light filtered through the curtains, he woke to her soft breathing beside him, the schematic still glowing faintly in the air. He slipped an arm around her and drifted back to sleep, a smile on his lips. He had married a disabled black woman, but the greatest surprise of his life was discovering that she was the architect of her own destiny. And now, his destiny was entwined with hers forever.